The katana whistled through the air, missing Maya Johnson's throat by inches. She twisted her body, feeling the blade slice through the fabric of her jacket as she drove her elbow into her attacker's ribs. The man grunted, stumbled backward into the ornate Korean pottery display, and Maya was already moving. Her hand shot out, grabbing a champagne flute from a passing server's tray. Before the assassin could recover, she smashed the glass against the marble floor and drove the jagged stem into his neck. Blood sprayed across the white silk curtains as the man collapsed. Maya didn't watch him fall. She was already scanning the room, counting threats, calculating angles. The grand ballroom of Kang Min-ho's mountain estate had transformed from an elegant piece summit into a killing floor in less than 30 seconds. "Get down," Maya shouted, shoving Kang behind a marble pillar as gunfire erupted from the second-floor balcony. Chunks of stone exploded around them, showering them with debris. She could hear screaming, smell gunpowder and blood, feel her heart hammering against her ribs like it was trying to break free. Subscribe now to follow her journey as she navigates a world of betrayal, survival, and redemption. This was supposed to be easy money. One night. Just stand there and look intimidating. That's what Mr. Choi had said when he found her 3 days ago in that dingy bar in Itaewon. But nothing in Maya's life had ever been easy. 12 hours earlier, Maya had been sitting in her cramped studio apartment in Seoul, staring at the water stain on her ceiling that looked like a laughing skull. The nightmare had woken her again. Same one as always, the village in Yemen, the children, the order she'd refused to follow. The sound of her commanding officer's voice still echoed in her ears sometimes, cold and clinical as he told her she was finished. "Fire on that position, Lieutenant Johnson. That's an order." "Sir, those are civilians. I can see children." "I said fire." She'd refused. The mission had gone sideways. 6 soldiers died in the ambush that followed, and Maya had become the scapegoat for an operation that should never have been authorized in the first place. Dishonorable discharge, court-martial, 32 years old and her entire life burned to ash. That's what brought her to Seoul 8 months ago, far enough away that no one knew her face, far enough that maybe she could forget who she used to be. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Is this Maya Johnson?" The voice was male, Korean accent, speaking perfect English. "Who's asking?" "My name is Choi Min-jun. I represent someone who requires your services." Maya laughed, a harsh sound in the empty apartment. "I do security for convenience stores and nightclubs. Whatever you're selling, I'm not buying." "I've seen the footage from last Tuesday night. The 3 men who tried to rob the pharmacy on Gangnam Boulevard. You disarmed the first one with a beer bottle, choked out the second with your jacket, and put the third through a plate glass window. All in under 45 seconds. That's not convenience store security, Miss Johnson. That's elite military training." Maya's blood went cold. She sat up slowly, suddenly very awake. "How did you get this number?" "My employer is very thorough. He knows about Yemen. He knows about the court-martial. He knows that Lieutenant Maya Johnson of the United States Army Special Forces was one of the finest soldiers her country ever produced before they threw her away like garbage." "What do you want?" "To offer you a job. 1 night of work. More money than you'd make in 6 months of your current employment. All you have to do is keep 1 man alive for 8 hours. "I'm not an assassin." "We don't need an assassin, Miss Johnson. We need a bodyguard. Someone who can't be bought. Someone outside the normal web of loyalties and betrayals. Someone who has nothing left to lose." Maya should have hung up, should have blocked the number and forgotten the conversation. But the rent was overdue, and she was tired of eating convenience store ramen, and maybe she was also tired of feeling useless. "Where and when?" she asked. 2 days later, Maya found herself being driven up a winding mountain road in a black Mercedes, watching Seoul's glittering skyline disappear behind the peaks. Mr. Choi sat across from her in the back seat, immaculately dressed in a charcoal suit, his face unreadable. "Tell me about Kang Min-ho," Maya said, watching the trees blur past the tinted windows. Choi was silent for a moment, considering his words carefully. Mr. Kang is a complicated man. His grandfather built the Kang organization through violence and ruthlessness. His father expanded it through fear and intimidation. But Mr. Kang, he wants something different. Let me guess, he wants to go legitimate. He wants to build instead of destroy. He's been using the family resources to invest in real estate, technology, legitimate businesses. But change is dangerous in our world, Miss Johnson. The old guard sees betrayal. The rivals see weakness, and weakness invites attack. So tonight's summit is an attempt to make peace with the other organizations, to show them that there's more profit in cooperation than conflict. But peace is harder than war, and there are many who would prefer Mr. Kang dead. The estate appeared through the trees like something from a different century. Traditional Korean architecture mixed with modern security features. Sweeping roof lines and curved eaves, but Maya's trained eye caught the cameras, the reinforced walls, the strategic sight lines. This was a fortress dressed up as a palace. They passed through 2 security checkpoints before the car stopped in front of the main building. Mr. Choi led her through corridors decorated with ancient pottery and modern art, a visual representation of the tension between old and new that seemed to define everything about Kang Min-ho. The man himself was waiting in a private office, standing by a floor-to-ceiling window that overlooked the mountain valley. He was younger than Maya expected, maybe 40, with sharp features and intelligent eyes. He wore a tailored Western suit, but somehow still carried himself with the bearing of Korean nobility. "Miss Johnson," he said, turning from the window. His English was flawless, marked by what sounded like an Ivy League education. "Thank you for coming. I hope the journey wasn't too uncomfortable." "It was fine," Maya said, staying near the door, staying alert. Old habits. "Your man said you needed protection for tonight." "I need someone I can trust. And trust, ironically, comes from having no prior relationship. Everyone in my organization has connections, family, loyalties that complicate things. You're an outsider. That makes you valuable. Or expendable." Kang smiled slightly. "Honest, I appreciate that. Yes. If things go wrong tonight, you would be expendable. But I'm paying you enough that hopefully the risk is worthwhile." He named a figure that made Maya's breath catch. 3 months of her current salary for 1 night of work. "What's the threat assessment?" she asked, trying to sound professional. "Unknown. That's the problem. Tonight I'm hosting representatives from 6 rival organizations. Any of them might see this as an opportunity, or perhaps someone in my own organization wants to send a message. The most dangerous enemy is the one you don't see coming. Your regular security is very good, but they're Korean. They think like Koreans, fight like Koreans, see threats through Korean eyes. You're different. You think differently. That's why Mr. Choi spent 2 weeks finding you." Maya studied him, trying to read past the calm exterior. "Why do this? Why not just maintain your father's empire the way it was?" Kang turned back to the window, his reflection ghostly in the glass. "When I was 12 years old, I watched my father beaten to death in our family home. 3 men with baseball bats. He died on the floor of his own study while I hid in a closet and did nothing. Do you know what builds in that closet, Miss Johnson? What grows in that darkness?" "Fear," Maya said quietly. "Hatred, rage. I spent the next 20 years becoming exactly what my father was, ruthless, violent, feared. And then one day I looked in the mirror and saw the face of the man who killed him. I realized I'd become the thing I hated most." He turned back to face her. "So yes, I'm trying to change. Maybe I'll fail. Maybe I'll die trying. But I'd rather die attempting something meaningful than live as a monster." There was something in his voice, a rawness that Maya recognized. She'd heard it in her own voice after Yemen, the sound of someone trying to outrun their past. "When does this summit start?" she asked. "In 4 hours. Mr. Choi will show you the estate, introduce you to the security team. I'm afraid they may not be particularly welcoming." That turned out to be an understatement. The head of security, a hard-faced man named Director Yoon, looked at Maya like she was something he'd scraped off his shoe. "This is ridiculous," he said in Korean to Mr. Choi, apparently not realizing Maya could understand him. She'd been studying obsessively for 8 months, one of the few things that kept her sane. An American, a woman, she'll be useless if something happens. Mr. Kang has made his decision, Choi replied smoothly. Yoon switched to English, his tone barely civil. You will stay close to Mr. Kang but not interfere with my men's work. Do not touch anything, do not give orders, do not engage unless specifically directed. Is that clear? Crystal, Maya said, meeting his glare steadily. The other security personnel were no more welcoming. She caught whispered comments as she walked past, some in Korean, some in English. The gist was always the same. She was an outsider, a foreigner, a woman playing at a man's job. She'd heard it all before, in the army, in every posting she'd ever had. The difference was that in the army, she'd eventually earned their respect through performance. Tonight, she wouldn't have that luxury. Mr. Choi took her on a tour of the estate. It was massive, sprawling across several acres of mountain terrain. The main building was the centerpiece, a stunning example of traditional Korean architecture updated with modern amenities. But there were also gardens, a separate guest house, servant quarters, even a small Buddhist temple on the grounds. The summit will be held in the main ballroom, Choi explained as they walked. Approximately 60 people total, the 6 organization leaders and their personal security, Mr. Kang's own people, staff and servers. It's a lot of moving pieces. Too many, Maya muttered, her tactical mind already screaming warnings. Too many people, too many variables, too many places for things to go wrong. They passed through a traditional Korean garden, all carefully manicured rocks and precisely placed trees. A young woman was sitting on a stone bench, working on a laptop. She looked up as they approached, and Maya was struck by how young she seemed. Mid-20s at most, with delicate features and kind eyes. Miss Johnson, this is Jaiwoo, Choi introduced them. Mr. Kang's personal assistant. Nice to meet you, Jaiwoo said in English, offering a shy smile. Mr. Kang speaks very highly of your skills. We'll see if I live up to the hype, Maya replied. I hope everything goes smoothly tonight, Jaiwoo said. Mr. Kang has worked so hard for this. He really believes peace is possible. There was something genuine in her voice, a true believer quality that Maya found both touching and naive. Peace was a lovely idea, but in Maya's experience, violence was always more reliable. As the sun began to set, the estate transformed. Lights came on in the gardens, creating paths of soft illumination. The ballroom was prepared, tables arranged, flowers positioned, everything perfect for the illusion of civilization and diplomacy. Maya took up her position near Kang as the guests began to arrive. She wore a simple black suit that concealed the body armor Mr. Choi had provided, her hair pulled back in a tight bun, her face carefully neutral. Just another piece of furniture. That was the goal. Be invisible until you needed to be seen. The organization leaders arrived in order of importance, or maybe in order of paranoia. Each brought their own security, men in dark suits with cold eyes who sized up the room and each other with professional suspicion. Maya recognized the type. These were serious people, trained, dangerous. The last to arrive was an older man, maybe 70, who moved with the careful dignity of Korean tradition. Uncle Shin, Mr. Choi whispered to her, Kang's father's oldest friend and closest advisor. He should have been trustworthy, but something in the way his eyes never quite met Kang's made Maya's instincts prickle. The summit began with the careful formality of a ceremony. Speeches were made, toasts were offered, elaborate dinner courses were served. Maya stood in her assigned position, back to the wall, watching everything. The guests, the staff, the other security, looking for anything out of place, any hint of threat. Director Yoon approached her once, his expression sour. See, nothing is happening, you can relax. But Maya couldn't relax. Something felt wrong. She couldn't articulate what exactly, but her gut was screaming warnings. Too many new faces among the staff. The way some of the security men were positioned, blocking exits rather than watching for threats. The subtle looks being exchanged between people who should have been strangers. She moved closer to Kang, who was engaged in conversation with one of the rival bosses, discussing real estate development in Gangnam. He glanced at her, and something in her expression must have shown her concern because his eyes narrowed slightly. "Excuse me," he said to his conversation partner, then turned to Maya, speaking quietly. "What is it?" "I don't know," she admitted. "Something's wrong. The security positioning, the staff, the way people are moving. This doesn't feel like a summit. It feels like a setup." "You think someone's going to make a move?" "I think if they were going to, this would be the perfect moment. Everyone in one place, everyone's guard starting to drop." She glanced around the room again. "Where are the exits?" "Main entrance, service entrance through the kitchen, emergency exits on the east and west walls. All of them are blocked by security personnel who aren't watching the room. They're watching the exits." Kang's face went pale. "You're saying?" "I'm saying if I wanted to trap everyone in this room, this is exactly how I'd do it." He started to respond, but the lights went out. For a moment, there was only confusion. Voices calling out in the darkness, the sound of chairs scraping back, the clink of glasses being set down. Maya's hand was already moving to the small tactical flashlight on her belt when she heard it. The distinctive crack of suppressed gunfire. Then the screaming started. Maya's training took over before conscious thought could catch up. She grabbed Kang by the shoulder, feeling the expensive fabric of his suit bunch under her fingers, and yanked him down behind the marble pillar just as bullets chewed through the space where his head had been a heartbeat before. Splinters of stone exploded around them, sharp as shrapnel, drawing blood from her cheek. "Stay down," she shouted over the chaos, but her voice was lost in the cacophony. The ballroom had become a symphony of violence. Gunfire punctuated screams, glass shattered. Bodies hit the floor with sounds that Maya knew would haunt her later, the wet thump of meat and bone meeting polished marble. Her eyes were adjusting to the darkness, pupils dilating, pulling in every photon of ambient light from the gardens outside. She could see muzzle flashes from the second-floor balcony, could track the shadows moving with military precision through the panicked crowd. These weren't opportunistic gangsters. This was a coordinated assault. "How many?" Kang's voice was steady beside her, surprisingly calm for a man who just watched his peace summit turn into a massacre. Whatever else he wasn't a coward. "At least a dozen on the balcony, more coming through the exits." Maya's mind was racing, cataloging threats, calculating angles. The champagne flute she'd used to kill the first attacker was still clutched in her hand, sticky with blood. She dropped it, already scanning for better weapons. "We need to move. This position is compromised." A figure emerged from the smoke and chaos, moving with purpose toward their pillar. Maya saw the gun coming up, saw the intent in the man's body language, and she moved. 3 steps, fast and low. She caught his wrist as he fired, redirecting the barrel upward. The shot went wild, punching a hole in the ceiling. She twisted hard, felt bones grind and snap. He opened his mouth to scream, and she drove her palm into his throat, crushing his windpipe. He went down gagging, drowning on his own blood. Maya caught the gun before it hit the floor. Glock 19, 15 rounds in the magazine if it was full. She checked the chamber. 1 in the pipe. Good enough. "Can you shoot?" she asked Kang. "Not as well as you, apparently." "Stay behind me. Stay close. We're going for the east emergency exit." "That's blocked." "Not for long." She moved, and Kang followed. Maya kept her body between him and the majority of the gunfire, using the pillars and overturned tables for cover, advancing by angles and inches. The years of training, the muscle memory drilled into her in Fort Benning and Bragg and a dozen classified locations across 3 continents, all of it came roaring back. She wasn't Maya Johnson, disgraced soldier anymore. She was a weapon, and weapons had purpose. 2 assassins stepped into their path, both armed with submachine guns. Maya fired twice, center mass on the first target. He stumbled backward into a table laden with untouched desserts. The second one got his weapon up, and Maya threw herself sideways, firing as she moved. Her bullet caught him in the shoulder, spinning him around. She fired again. Head shot. He dropped. "Jesus Christ," Kang breathed behind her. "Save the prayers for later. Move." They reached the east exit to find it blocked by 3 men in tactical gear. One of them saw Maya and Kang approaching and raised his weapon. Maya was faster. She fired, but the Glock clicked empty. She'd burned through the magazine without counting, rookie mistake, and now she was going to pay for it. The assassin smiled, a cold, predatory expression, and Maya saw her death in his eyes. Then Director Yoon appeared from nowhere, driving a knife into the man's kidney. The assassin screamed, and Yoon ripped the blade free, already turning toward the second guard. "Go," Yoon shouted at Maya, his previous contempt replaced by grim professionalism. "Get him out." Maya didn't argue. She grabbed Kang and shouldered through the emergency exit as Yoon engaged the remaining guards. The night air hit her face, cool and clean after the smoke-filled ballroom. Behind them, she could hear Yoon fighting, the sound of blade meeting flesh, and then a gunshot and silence. "Yoon," Kang started to turn back, but Maya held him firm. "He bought us time, don't waste it." Her voice was harder than she intended, but there was no room for sentiment. Not yet. Not while they were still in the kill zone. They emerged into the traditional Korean garden, the one where Maya had met Jae-woo earlier. It looked different now, shadows deep and threatening, the carefully placed stones becoming obstacles and blind spots. Maya's tactical mind mapped it automatically. Sight lines, cover positions, choke points. The garden was beautiful, but it was also a death trap for anyone who didn't know its layout. "Where can we defend?" she asked Kang, already pulling him toward a cluster of decorative rocks that would provide some cover. "The guest house. It has reinforced doors, panic room in the basement." "How far?" "Across the garden, through the moon gate, past the koi pond." "That's too exposed." "It's the only option. Everything else requires going back through the main building." Maya cursed under her breath, scanning the garden. Already she could see flashlights bobbing in the darkness behind them, hear voices calling out in Korean and other languages. Chinese, Russian, Japanese. This wasn't just one organization. This was a coalition. "They're hurting us," she said, understanding clicking into place. "The exits, the positions, all of it, they want us in the garden." "Why?" "Because gardens have walls. Gardens are contained. Gardens are where you corner your prey." As if to punctuate her words, figures appeared at the garden's entrance. 5 men, moving in formation, weapons raised. Maya recognized the movement pattern. Military training. Probably former special forces from somewhere. Korea, maybe China. It didn't matter. What mattered was they knew what they were doing. "Run," Maya said. "The guest house now." They ran. Maya heard bullets cutting through the air around them, heard rounds impacting the decorative stones with sharp cracks. A koi pond appeared in their path, and they splashed through it, water soaking their clothes, ornamental fish scattering in panic. The moon gate loomed ahead, a circular opening in a traditional wall, beautiful and symbolic and tactically idiotic because it created a fatal funnel. Maya grabbed Kang and pulled him to the side just before they reached the gate. A burst of automatic fire tore through the opening, exactly where they would have been. She looked around desperately for another route and saw it. A stand of bamboo growing thick against the wall, tall enough to provide cover, dense enough to obscure their movement. "Through there," she pointed. They pushed into the bamboo, the stalks whispering and rattling around them. Maya could hear the assassins behind them, getting closer, spreading out to cover more ground. Professional tactics. These men were being paid very well or were very committed to seeing Kang dead. Probably both. The bamboo opened onto a small clearing with a stone lantern at its center. Beautiful, peaceful, completely exposed. Maya pulled Kang back into the bamboo's cover just as a figure stepped into the clearing from the opposite side. He was tall, maybe 6'3", with the lean build of a dedicated martial artist. He carried a katana, the blade catching moonlight, and he moved with the confidence of someone who'd killed many times before. His eyes found them in the bamboo, and he smiled. "Kang Min-ho," he said in Japanese-accented Korean. "Your father killed my brother. Tonight I return the favor." He came forward, and Maya stepped between him and Kang. The swordsman's eyes flicked to her, dismissive at first, then reassessing as he saw her stance, her balance, the way she held herself. "You're American," he said, switching to English. Why die for Korean trash? He's paying me, Maya replied, circling slowly, keeping Kang behind her. And I take my contracts seriously. The swordsman laughed. Honorable, I respect that. I'll make your death quick. He attacked. The katana sang through the air in a rising cut designed to open her from hip to shoulder. Maya dove forward under the blade, feeling it pass inches above her back. She came up inside his guard, drove her fist into his solar plexus. He grunted but didn't fold, and his knee came up toward her face. She twisted, took the impact on her shoulder instead of her head, and rolled away. He was good, better than good. The way he recovered, the way he flowed from strike to defensive position, this was a lifetime of training. Maya had hand-to-hand combat skills, but she'd learned to fight with guns and technology. This man had dedicated himself to the blade. She needed an equalizer. The stone lantern, 3 feet tall, heavy granite, ancient and ornamental. Maya grabbed it as the swordsman advanced, lifting with her legs, pivoting with her hips. She threw it like a shot put, 200 pounds of carved stone arcing through the air. The swordsman's eyes widened. He brought the katana up, trying to deflect, but physics won. The lantern hit the blade, snapped it like a twig, and kept going. It caught him in the chest, driving him backward. He stumbled, hit the ground hard. Maya was on him before he could recover. She grabbed a piece of the broken lantern, sharp as any blade now, and drove it down. He caught her wrists, and for a moment they struggled, his strength against hers. He was stronger, but Maya had leverage. She let her weight drop, driving the stone shard down despite his resistance. It punched through his throat. Blood fountained hot across her hands, her face. He made a wet gurgling sound, eyes wide with shock and fury, and then the light went out of them. Maya stood, breathing hard, covered in blood. 4 assassins down. God only knew how many to go. Are you hurt? Kang asked, his voice tight. No, keep moving. They emerged from the bamboo to find 3 more assassins waiting. These were Chinese, judging by their features and the Mandarin they were speaking into their radios. They saw Maya and Kang, and weapons came up. Maya didn't think. She grabbed Kang and threw both of them sideways into the koi pond. Bullets churned the water into froth around them. She pulled Kang deeper, toward the center where a decorative bridge crossed overhead. Her lungs burned. The world turned into murky green silence broken by the distant thunder of bullets hitting water. They surfaced under the bridge, gasping. The assassins were advancing around the pond's edge, trying to get angles. Maya's hand found something in the murky water. A rock, fist-sized, smooth from years in the pond. She surfaced just long enough to throw it. Her aim was true. It caught the lead assassin in the face, breaking his nose in a spray of blood. He stumbled backward into the second man. The third assassin fired, but Maya was already moving. She came up out of the water like some ancient predator, grabbing the shooter's weapon and twisting. The gun went off, the bullet going wild. She head-butted him, felt his cheekbone crack, and then drove her knee into his groin. He folded. She took his gun and shot the other 2 before they could recover. The guest house, she said to Kang, who was still in the pond, staring at her with something like awe or horror. Now, before more come. They ran, dripping wet, leaving a trail any tracker could follow. But speed mattered more than stealth now. The guest house appeared through the trees, a smaller version of the main building, traditional architecture with modern security. The door was reinforced steel disguised as wood. Kang pressed his thumb to a biometric reader, and the door opened. They stumbled inside, and Maya immediately started securing the space. Windows, doors, sight lines. The guest house was well designed for defense. Few windows, all of them small and reinforced. The panic room Kang mentioned was in the basement, accessed through a hidden door in what looked like a storage closet. How long will the panic room hold? Maya asked. It's designed to withstand a siege. Reinforced concrete, independent air supply, communications equipment. We could last days if necessary. We won't have days. They know we're here. They'll breach this place in less than an hour. Then what do we do? Maya checked the gun she'd taken from the dead assassin. Chinese military issue, QSZ-92. 15 rounds. She had no spare magazines, against an unknown number of attackers. It might as well be a slingshot. "We thin their numbers," she said. "Make them pay for every foot of ground, maybe buy enough time for help to arrive." "Help isn't coming," Kang said quietly. "My organization is either compromised or scattered. The police won't intervene in what looks like gang warfare. We're on our own." Maya met his eyes. She saw acceptance there, not resignation. He knew the odds. He was making peace with them. "Then we make our stand here," she said, "and we take as many of them with us as we can." Kang surprised her by smiling. "You know, Miss Johnson, I'm starting to think I didn't pay you enough. You can give me a raise if we survive this." "Deal." They had maybe 5 minutes before the assault began. Maya used them to fortify their position. She overturned furniture, created firing positions, mapped angles and approaches. The guest house had 3 entrances: the main door, a service entrance to the kitchen, and the panic room access in the basement. All 3 were potential breach points. "Can you handle a gun?" she asked Kang. "I told you, not as well as you. I don't need you to be a marksman. I need you to point and pull the trigger if someone gets past me." She found a second weapon in the guest house's security locker, gave it to him along with quick instructions. "Safety off. Aim center mass. Don't hesitate." Kang took the gun like it was a poisonous snake, but his hands were steady. "I never wanted this life," he said quietly. "I wanted to build things, create something lasting, be better than my father." "You still can. First, we have to live through tonight." The first attack came through the main door. No subtlety, no tactics. They blew the lock with shaped charges and came through firing. Maya was ready. She'd positioned herself behind a heavy wooden table that she'd flipped on its side, Korean oak that would stop most pistol rounds. She waited until they committed to the breach, until they were in the fatal funnel of the doorway, and then she opened fire. 2 men went down immediately. The third caught a round in the shoulder and stumbled back outside. Maya could hear shouting in Mandarin, commands being given. They'd expected less resistance. Good. Let them think. Let them hesitate. Every second they waited was another second she and Kang stayed alive. "Kitchen entrance," Kang shouted. Maya spun to see men pouring through the service door. She fired, but there were too many. They were using suppressive fire, keeping her pinned while they advanced. Professional tactics again. These weren't street thugs. This was a military operation. She was about to be overrun when the window exploded inward and a figure tumbled through in a shower of glass. One of the assassins, thrown bodily through the window. He hit the floor hard and didn't move. A second later, another figure appeared in the window frame. Sergeant Kim, one of Kang's security team. His face was bruised and bloodied, his suit torn, but he was alive and armed. He provided covering fire while Maya repositioned, catching the attackers in a crossfire. Bodies dropped. The survivors retreated, pulling their wounded with them. "Sergeant," Kang said, relief evident in his voice. "I thought." "Director Yoon is dead," Kim said, his voice flat, emotionless. The voice of a man who'd seen too much horror tonight and was running on fumes and training. "Most of the security team is dead. The summit guests, the staff, everyone. It's a massacre, sir. I counted at least 40 assassins, maybe more, multiple organizations. This was planned for months." "How did you get out?" Maya asked. I fought my way out, killed 6 of them." He looked at his hands, at the blood coating them. "Maybe 7, I lost count." "The police." "Communications are jammed. Cell phones, landlines, everything. They've isolated us completely. No one's coming to help." Maya's mind raced through scenarios, tactics, options. They were 3 people with limited ammunition against 40-plus trained killers. The math wasn't favorable. "The panic room," she said to Kang. "Can it be accessed from outside the guest house?" "No, the only entrance is here." "Then that's where we make our final stand. We fall back to the panic room, seal it, and hold until dawn. Maybe by then the jamming will lift. Maybe someone will have noticed something's wrong." "Maybe," Kang said, but his tone suggested he didn't believe it. They heard movement outside, voices calling to each other in multiple languages. The assassins were regrouping, probably calling in reinforcements from whatever teams had finished securing the main building. The next assault would be bigger, more coordinated, harder to stop. "How many rounds do you have left?" Maya asked Kim. He checked his weapon. 1 magazine, maybe 20 rounds. Maya checked her own gun. 8 rounds remaining. Against 40 enemies, it was laughable. They needed to change the equation. "The guest house has a gas line, right?" she asked Kang. "For heating and cooking." "Yes, but..." "Can you access it? Shut off the safeties?" Understanding dawned in Kang's eyes. "You want to turn the building into a bomb." "I want to give them something to think about. We fall back to the panic room, rig the gas to blow when they breach. How many that takes out, I don't know, but it'll even the odds. It'll also destroy my guest house." "You can buy another guest house. You can't buy another life." Kang nodded slowly. "Sergeant Kim, help me with the gas line. Miss Johnson, watch the doors." They worked quickly. Kang and Kim disappeared into the basement while Maya maintained her position, watching for any sign of movement outside. She could see shadows shifting in the darkness, could feel the assassins preparing for their next move. They were being cautious now. She'd made them pay for their aggression. But caution only lasted so long. Eventually, they'd realize that time was on their side. Eventually, they'd overwhelm her through sheer numbers. "It's done," Kang called from the basement stairs. "Gas is flooding the guest house. When they breach, we'll need a detonator, something we can trigger from inside the panic room." "The security system," Kim said. "We can override it, cause an electrical short in the main room. The spark should be enough to ignite the gas." "How long do we have before the concentration gets dangerous?" "Maybe 5 minutes. After that, we risk blowing ourselves up just by breathing wrong." Maya could already smell it, the distinctive odor of natural gas, filling the guest house like invisible poison. Her eyes were starting to water. "Panic room, now." They moved quickly to the basement, through the hidden door that Kang had shown her earlier. The panic room was exactly as advertised. A reinforced concrete box, 6 feet by 8 feet, with a heavy steel door that could be sealed from the inside. There were supplies, water, emergency rations. A bank of monitors showing security camera feeds from around the estate. Communications equipment, though currently all of it was showing static due to the jamming. They sealed the door just as the gas concentration in the guest house above reached critical levels. Through the monitors, Maya watched the assassins approach. She counted 15 visible on the cameras. At least 15 more were probably out of frame. "They're coming," she said quietly. On the monitors, she watched them breach. The front door exploded inward under another shaped charge. Men in tactical gear poured through, weapons raised, moving in perfect formation. They swept the first floor, found it empty, started toward the basement stairs. "Now," Maya said. Kim triggered the override. On the monitor, she saw sparks shower from an electrical panel in the main room. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the world turned white. The explosion was massive, a percussion wave that shook even the panic room through 6 feet of reinforced concrete. The monitors went dark as the cameras were destroyed. Maya's ears rang despite the sealed door. Through the walls, she could hear secondary explosions as gas lines ruptured, as fire found new fuel. When the monitors flickered back to life on backup power, the guest house above them was gone. Just gone, replaced by a crater and burning debris. Bodies were scattered across the lawn, some moving, most not. "Jesus," Kim breathed. "How many did we get?" Maya counted the bodies visible on the remaining exterior cameras. 12 confirmed, maybe more in the debris. Which still left at least 28 assassins. They'd bought time, reduced the odds, but they were still heavily outnumbered. And now they were trapped in a concrete box with limited supplies and no way out except through whatever remained of their enemies. "What now?" Kang asked. Maya studied the monitors, watching the surviving assassins regroup. They were more cautious now, more respectful. She demonstrated that this wouldn't be easy, but they weren't retreating. If anything, they looked more determined. "Now," Maya said, "we wait. Let them come to us, make them pay for every inch. and hope that dawn comes before our ammunition runs out. Kang settled against the concrete wall, the gun still clutched in his hands. "Miss Johnson, can I ask you something?" "Call me Maya. I think we're past formality at this point." "Maya, then, why did you really come to Korea? It wasn't just the court-martial, was it?" Maya was quiet for a long moment, watching the monitors. "I came here because I needed to disappear, because everyone I knew, everyone I trusted, everyone I'd bled with, they all turned their backs when the brass needed a scapegoat. I came here because I was tired of being Lieutenant Johnson, war criminal. I wanted to be just Maya. Nobody. Nothing. And instead, you walked into another war." Story of my life. Outside the panic room, in the ruins of the guest house and the gardens beyond, she could hear them coming. 28 assassins, maybe more, all of them determined to finish what they'd started. And all that stood between them and Kang Min-ho was one disgraced soldier with a nearly empty gun and a lifetime of reasons to give up. But Maya Johnson had never been good at giving up. It was, perhaps, her greatest strength and her most fatal flaw. "There at the crater edge," Kim reported, watching the monitors. "Testing the debris, looking for a way down to us." "Let them come," Maya said, checking her weapon one more time. 8 rounds. "We'll show them what happens when you corner a predator." The panic room had become a fortress within a tomb. Maya studied the security monitors, watching the assassins probe the ruins of the guest house like surgeons examining a wound. They were methodical now, the explosion having taught them respect. She could see them coordinating through hand signals, professionals communicating without words. They'd found the panic room entrance beneath the rubble. "They know we're down here," Kim said, his voice tight with tension. He'd positioned himself by the door, weapon ready, waiting for the inevitable breach. "Of course they know," Maya replied. "The question is how long it takes them to get through that door." Kang was studying the communications equipment, cycling through frequencies, trying to find anything that wasn't jammed. Still nothing. Whatever they're using, it's military grade, probably Russian or Chinese origin, covers everything from AM radio to satellite uplinks. "How thick is that door?" Maya asked, pointing to the steel barrier that was currently their only defense. 6 inches of hardened steel, designed to withstand explosives and cutting torches. Should take them at least an hour to breach, maybe more. "We don't have an hour," Maya said, watching the monitors. More assassins were arriving, emerging from the tree line. She counted heads, tracking each new arrival like an accountant tallying debts. "I count 32 now. They're committing everyone. This is their final push." On the monitor, she watched a group of assassins hauling equipment toward the crater. Cutting torches, shaped charges, some kind of heavy machinery. They were setting up for a siege, and they had the numbers and resources to wait them out. "The air supply," Maya said suddenly. "How long does it last?" Kang checked the gauge. 12 hours at full capacity, but if they're pumping gas or smoke through the ventilation shafts. "Show me the schematics." Kang pulled up the panic room's blueprints on one of the monitors. Maya studied them, her tactical mind parsing the information, looking for weaknesses and opportunities. The room had 3 ventilation shafts, each barely wide enough for a child to crawl through, each with multiple filters and safety systems. But systems could be compromised. "Here," she pointed to a junction on the schematic. "If they get to this point, they can bypass the filters, pump in anything they want, carbon monoxide, nerve gas, whatever." "The junction is in the basement of what used to be the guest house," Kim said. "Under 10 feet of rubble now." "Then they'll dig. They've got time and bodies. We've got neither." The first explosion came 5 minutes later. Not a breach attempt, but demolition. They were clearing the rubble, creating access to the panic room's exterior. The concrete around them shuddered. Dust drifted down from the ceiling. Maya watched on the monitors as chunks of debris were hauled away, as the assassins worked with mechanical efficiency. "We need to do something," Kim said. "We can't just sit here and wait for them to crack us open." "Suggestions?" Maya asked, though she already knew the answer. There were no good options. Every scenario she ran ended with them dead or captured. "The ventilation shafts," Kang said slowly. You said they're too small for an adult. They are. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that we're not the only ones who know about them. The assassins will try to use them. Send something through, explosives maybe, or gas. So we block them. Or we turn them into weapons. Maya looked at him, seeing the calculation in his eyes. Explain. The shafts have emergency shutoffs at regular intervals. If we trigger them at the right moment, anything inside gets crushed. The mechanism uses hydraulic pressure, over 10,000 pounds per square inch. You want to bait them into using the shafts, then crush whatever they send through. Or whoever. If they're desperate enough, they might try to send someone small through. One of the younger assassins, someone slight enough to fit. It was brutal, cold, exactly the kind of tactical thinking that had made Maya good at her job before Yemen. Do it, she said. Rig the shafts, make them a liability. While Kang worked on the ventilation controls, Maya continued studying the monitors. The assassins had established a perimeter around the crater, professional and thorough. She recognized the formation from her own training. They were preparing for a long operation, rotating guards, setting up supply lines. These men were being paid very well, or they believed in their mission with religious fervor. How many do you think we've killed tonight? Kim asked quietly. Maya did the math in her head. 18, maybe 20. In the ballroom, the garden, the guest house explosion, not counting wounded. And there are still 30 plus out there. Attrition warfare. It's the only game we can play. Maya checked her weapon again, a habit born from 1,000 combat situations. 8 rounds. She'd been counting and recounting, as if the number might magically increase. How many rounds do you have left? 15, 1 magazine. 23 bullets between them, against 32 enemies. The math was simple and brutal. Movement in shaft 2, Kang said, pointing to a monitor showing thermal imaging of the ventilation system. Something's coming through. They watched a heat signature move through the narrow shaft, small and compact. Not a person, Maya judged. Too small, too fast. A drone maybe, or a bomb on wheels. It reached the first junction, then the second, moving deeper into the system, getting closer to the panic room. Now, Kang asked, his finger hovering over the emergency shutoff. Wait, let it get to the final junction. Make sure we get it completely. The heat signature crawled forward, meter by meter. Maya could imagine it now, some small device packed with explosives or poison gas being remote-controlled through the shaft by someone outside. When it reached the final junction, just meters from the panic room, she nodded. Kang triggered the shutoff. On the thermal monitor, the heat signature stopped. A moment later, a different kind of heat bloomed, bright and sudden. Explosion. Whatever they'd sent had detonated when crushed, but contained within the shaft, the blast was absorbed by the concrete and steel. That'll make them think twice, Kim said with grim satisfaction. But Maya was watching another monitor, the one showing the crater's edge. The assassins weren't retreating. If anything, they seemed energized. She saw one of them talking animatedly into a radio, gesturing toward the ruins. Then she saw what he was pointing at. A truck was approaching, heavy-duty, diesel engine judging by the sound. It stopped at the crater's edge, and men began unloading equipment. Maya's blood went cold when she recognized what they were carrying. Drilling equipment, she said. Industrial grade. They're going to drill through the concrete, Kim asked. No, they're going to drill next to us. Create a new entrance that bypasses the door entirely. Then pump in whatever they want. Kang's face went pale. How long will that take? Depends on the drill. 20 minutes, 30, we don't have the gear to estimate properly. The sound started soon after, a mechanical shriek that cut through the concrete like a physical thing. Maya felt it in her teeth, in her bones. They were drilling, making their own entrance, and there was nothing she could do to stop them. We need to break out, Kim said, before they finish the drill. Break out into what? 32 armed enemies. Better than suffocating in here, or waiting for them to pump in poison gas. Maya hated to admit it, but he had a point. They could die in the box, or they could die fighting. At least fighting gave them a chance, however slim. She turned to Kang. When we open that door, all hell breaks loose. They'll be waiting for us. This will be a suicide run. But not certain suicide, Kang said. Just very, very probable suicide. That's the spirit, Maya replied dryly. Kim, you take point. Kang in the middle. I'll cover the rear. We move fast, we shoot first, we don't stop for anything. There's another building on this property, right? The temple. Buddhist temple, on the eastern edge of the estate. It's old, stone construction, isolated. Can we defend it? Maybe. It's small, only one entrance, thick walls, if we can get there. That's a big if. Maya checked her weapon again. 8 rounds. But it's the only option we have. The drilling continued, the sound getting louder, closer. Dust began to fall from a spot on the wall where they were breaching. Maya could see the drill bit now, grinding through the concrete, inches from penetrating completely. Positions, she said. When that drill breaks through, we go, fast and hard, no hesitation. Kim moved to the door, his hand on the manual release. Kang stood behind him, the gun shaking slightly in his hands despite his best efforts to stay calm. Maya was last, covering their rear, knowing that the moment they opened that door, she'd probably be the first to die. The drill bit punched through the wall. There was a shriek of tortured metal and concrete, and then a hole appeared, fist-sized, growing larger. Maya could see movement beyond it, could hear voices shouting in Mandarin. Now, she yelled. Kim yanked the door open. The assassins outside were focused on the drill breach, expecting them to be trapped and disoriented. They didn't expect the door to explode outward with 3 people shooting. Kim fired first, his rounds catching 2 men who'd been standing near the door, dropping them instantly. Maya was right behind, her weapon up, tracking targets, firing with mechanical precision. 1 round, 1 body. 2 rounds, 2 bodies. She was counting, always counting, knowing that when she hit 0, she was dead. They burst from the panic room into chaos. The basement was full of rubble and armed men, all of them now reacting to the unexpected counterattack. Maya shot a man to her left, then kicked another in the knee, shattering the joint, dropping him screaming. Kim was moving forward, clearing a path with controlled bursts. Kang was behind him, firing wildly but effectively enough. They reached the basement stairs. Kim went up first, checking angles, his weapons sweeping left to right. Clear, he motioned them forward. Maya counted rounds in her head, 5 left, maybe 6. She'd lost track in the chaos. The stairs led up into what had been the guest house's kitchen, now just a burned-out shell open to the night sky. The explosion had taken out most of the structure, leaving only support beams and foundation. Maya could see stars through the smoke, could feel cool air on her face. East, she said. Toward the temple, don't stop moving. They ran. Behind them, she could hear shouting, orders being given. The assassins were reorganizing, getting over their surprise. In seconds, they'd be in pursuit. Maya and her group had maybe a 30-second head start. It would have to be enough. The grounds were lit by fires from the explosions, casting everything in hellish orange light. Maya led them through the gardens, using the terrain for cover. They passed bodies, so many bodies, the casualties from the night's violence scattered like fallen leaves. Some were assassins. Some were Kang's security. Some were summit guests who'd just been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Contact rear, Kim shouted. Maya spun, saw muzzle flashes from behind them. She returned fire, not aiming, just suppressing, making them duck. Her slide locked back. Empty. She dropped the magazine, reached for another, remembered she had no more ammunition. The gun was now just expensive metal. She threw it at the nearest pursuer, caught him in the face, bought another second. Then she was running again, unarmed, knowing that if they caught her now. It was over. The temple appeared through the trees, exactly as Kang had described. Old stone construction, Korean Buddhist architecture, surrounded by a low wall. The main entrance was a heavy wooden door, weathered by decades but still solid. They reached it, and Kim put his shoulder into it. The door held. "It's locked," he said, disbelief in his voice. "Shoot the lock," Maya ordered. Kim put 3 rounds into the mechanism. The wood splintered. Kang kicked the door and it swung open. They tumbled inside, and Maya immediately moved to bar the entrance. There was a heavy wooden beam, ceremonial probably, but it would work. She dropped it into place just as something heavy hit the door from outside. They were in the temple's main hall, a space of austere beauty. Buddha statues lined the walls, their stone faces serene and indifferent to the violence outside. Prayer cushions were arranged in neat rows. Incense burners sat cold and empty. It was a place of peace, now about to become a battlefield. Windows, Maya said, already moving to check them. There were only two, both small and high, designed for light rather than ventilation. Good for defense, bad for escape. Kim, watch the door. Kang, help me check for other entrances. They found none. The temple had been built for meditation and prayer, not military defense, but its simple design worked in their favor. One entrance. Stone walls 2 feet thick, small windows. As fortresses went, it was crude but effective. How many rounds left? Maya asked Kim. He checked. 8, maybe 9. So they were down to single digits, against at least 25 assassins still in fighting condition. The math had gone from bad to impossible. Outside, Maya could hear the assassins surrounding the temple. She could see shadows moving past the windows, could hear orders being shouted in multiple languages. They were taking their time now, establishing positions, learning from their earlier mistakes. They're going to burn us out, Kang said quietly. This building is old, lots of wood mixed with the stone. It'll go up like kindling. Then we don't give them time. Maya was thinking, calculating, looking for any angle, any edge. Her eyes fell on the Buddha statues. These statues, what are they made of? Stone, granite probably. Why? How much would one weigh? A few 100 pounds, maybe more. Why? Kang repeated. Maya smiled, a cold expression that had nothing to do with humor. Because I'm tired of playing defense. It's time to make them afraid of us. She moved to the nearest statue, a seated Buddha about 4 feet tall. She tested its weight, found the balance point. It was heavy, incredibly heavy, but movable if you knew how to lift properly. Help me, she said to Kang. We're going to put these by the door. You want to drop them on people. I want to introduce our friends outside to the concept of irresistible force meeting very fragile bodies. Kim, cover us. If that door opens before we're ready, shoot anything that moves. They worked quickly, moving 3 of the statues to positions flanking the door. It was exhausting work, each statue requiring careful maneuvering. But when they were done, Maya had created a deadly trap. If the assassins breached the door, the statues could be toppled onto them. Several 100 pounds of granite dropping from 8 feet would crush bone and flesh like paper. Now we wait, Maya said, breathing hard from the exertion, and we make them work for it. The first assault came 5 minutes later. They tried to burn the door, and Maya could smell the gasoline, could hear it sloshing against wood. Then a match. Flames roared up, licking at the entrance. Smoke began to fill the temple, acrid and choking. The windows, Maya said, coughing. Break them, we need ventilation. Kim used his gun to smash the windows. Air flowed through, drawing the smoke upward and out, but also feeding the flames. The door was burning steadily now, the ancient wood blackening and cracking. They'll breach in minutes, Kang said, his voice hoarse from smoke inhalation. Then we give them a warm welcome. Maya positioned herself by one of the statues, hands ready to push. Kim, when that door comes down, you fire. Aim for the breach point. Make them hesitate. That's when we drop the statues. The door collapsed inward in a shower of embers and burning wood. Kim fired immediately, his remaining rounds stitching across the entrance. Maya heard screams, saw shadows falling back. Then the first assassin brave enough to risk the breach came through. Now, Maya shouted. She and Kang pushed the first statue. It teetered for a moment at the edge of the platform, then toppled forward with inexorable finality. The assassin looked up just in time to see several 100 pounds of carved Buddha descending toward him. The impact was sickening, a wet crunch that would haunt Maya's nightmares if she lived long enough to have them. The second assassin was smarter. He dodged the statue, rolled sideways, came up with his weapon raised. Kim had no ammunition left. Maya had no weapon. They were about to die when Kang stepped forward and shot the man in the face. His hands were shaking, his face pale with shock, but the assassin was dead. Kang stared at the body, at what he'd done, and for a moment Maya thought he might collapse. "First time?" she asked quietly. "Yes. Won't be the last. Not tonight. Can you handle it?" Kang nodded slowly. "Do I have a choice?" "There's always a choice. Most of them just lead to death." More assassins were coming through the breach. Maya pushed the second statue, caught one man under its base, heard his legs snap like dry branches. The third statue caught another too, crushing them against the doorframe. But the statues were gone now, and the assassins kept coming. They'd learned to expect the traps, were moving faster, more aggressively. Maya grabbed a piece of burning wood from the destroyed door, wielded it like a club. She swung at the first man through, caught him across the face. He screamed, fell back clutching at burned flesh. Another man came through. Maya threw the burning wood at him, then grabbed an incense burner, heavy brass, and swung it like a mace. It connected with his skull with a sound like a dropped melon. He went down hard. Kim was fighting hand-to-hand with another assassin, two men locked in desperate struggle. The assassin had a knife, was trying to bring it up into Kim's gut. Maya moved to help, but two more assassins came through the breach, cutting her off. She faced them with empty hands and a racing mind. No weapons, no backup, just training and will and a stubborn refusal to quit. The first assassin lunged and Maya sidestepped, caught his arm, used his momentum to throw him into the second man. They tangled, stumbled. She grabbed a prayer cushion, wrapped it around her hand, and drove her fist into the first man's throat. He dropped, choking. The second man recovered, pulled a gun. Maya was too close for him to shoot effectively. She grabbed his wrist, redirected the barrel upward. The gun went off, the shot deafening in the enclosed space. She kneed him in the groin, then again in the face when he doubled over. He dropped. Kim had killed his opponent but taken the knife in his shoulder. Blood was flowing freely, soaking his shirt. He was still standing, still fighting, but he was fatting fast. "How many?" Kang asked, his voice tight with fear and exhaustion. Maya looked at the bodies, did the math. "Maybe 20 left, maybe less. We've bloodied them, but they've got the numbers." "Can we hold?" "No," Maya said honestly. "Not without ammunition, not without weapons. They'll overwhelm us eventually. It's just a matter of time." As if to punctuate her words, something heavy hit the temple's roof. Then again. They were on top of the building now, would be coming through the ceiling any moment. "The prayer hall," Kang said suddenly. "Behind the main chamber, it has a tunnel." "A tunnel to where?" "The old monastery, half a mile down the mountain. It was built during the Japanese occupation, an escape route for monks. I'd forgotten about it until now." "Can we reach it?" "If we're fast." They moved, abandoning the temple's entrance, leaving the bodies and the smoke and the flames behind. The prayer hall was smaller, more intimate, with a locked door that Kang opened with a key he produced from somewhere. Inside was a simple room with more statues, more incense, and in the floor, almost invisible unless you knew where to look, a wooden hatch. Kang pulled it open, revealing darkness and a ladder descending into stone. "This way," he said, already climbing down. Maya helped Kim to the ladder. He was weak from blood loss, barely able to hold on. She practically carried him down the first few rungs, then followed, pulling the hatch closed above them. The tunnel was narrow, carved from living rock, barely wide enough for one person. Water dripped from the ceiling. The air was cold and stale. Maya's lighter provided minimal illumination, just enough to see a few feet ahead. Behind them, she heard the crash of the temple being breached, heard the assassins shouting when they found their prey had escaped. They'd figure out the tunnel soon enough. Minutes at most. "Move," Maya said. "Fast as you can, don't stop for anything." She and Kang pushed the first statue. It teetered for a moment at the edge of the platform, then toppled forward with inexorable finality. The assassin looked up just in time to see several 100 pounds of carved Buddha descending toward him. The impact was sickening, a wet crunch that would haunt Maya's nightmares if she lived long enough to have them. The second assassin was smarter. He dodged the statue, rolled sideways, came up with his weapon raised. Kim had no ammunition left. Maya had no weapon. They were about to die when Kang stepped forward and shot the man in the face. His hands were shaking, his face pale with shock, but the assassin was dead. Kang stared at the body, at what he'd done, and for a moment Maya thought he might collapse. "First time?" she asked quietly. "Yes. Won't be the last. Not tonight. Can you handle it?" Kang nodded slowly. "Do I have a choice?" "There's always a choice. Most of them just lead to death." More assassins were coming through the breach. Maya pushed the second statue, caught one man under its base, heard his legs snap like dry branches. The third statue caught another too, crushing them against the doorframe. But the statues were gone now, and the assassins kept coming. They'd learned to expect the traps, were moving faster, more aggressively. Maya grabbed a piece of burning wood from the destroyed door, wielded it like a club. She swung at the first man through, caught him across the face. He screamed, fell back clutching at burned flesh. Another man came through. Maya threw the burning wood at him, then grabbed an incense burner, heavy brass, and swung it like a mace. It connected with his skull with a sound like a dropped melon. He went down hard. Kim was fighting hand-to-hand with another assassin, two men locked in desperate struggle. The assassin had a knife, was trying to bring it up into Kim's gut. Maya moved to help, but two more assassins came through the breach, cutting her off. She faced them with empty hands and a racing mind. No weapons, no backup, just training and will and a stubborn refusal to quit. The first assassin lunged and Maya sidestepped, caught his arm, used his momentum to throw him into the second man. They tangled, stumbled. She grabbed a prayer cushion, wrapped it around her hand, and drove her fist into the first man's throat. He dropped, choking. The second man recovered, pulled a gun. Maya was too close for him to shoot effectively. She grabbed his wrist, redirected the barrel upward. The gun went off, the shot deafening in the enclosed space. She kneed him in the groin, then again in the face when he doubled over. He dropped. Kim had killed his opponent but taken the knife in his shoulder. Blood was flowing freely, soaking his shirt. He was still standing, still fighting, but he was fatting fast. "How many?" Kang asked, his voice tight with fear and exhaustion. Maya looked at the bodies, did the math. "Maybe 20 left, maybe less. We've bloodied them, but they've got the numbers." "Can we hold?" "No," Maya said honestly. "Not without ammunition, not without weapons. They'll overwhelm us eventually. It's just a matter of time." As if to punctuate her words, something heavy hit the temple's roof. Then again. They were on top of the building now, would be coming through the ceiling any moment. "The prayer hall," Kang said suddenly. "Behind the main chamber, it has a tunnel." "A tunnel to where?" "The old monastery, half a mile down the mountain. It was built during the Japanese occupation, an escape route for monks. I'd forgotten about it until now." "Can we reach it?" "If we're fast." They moved, abandoning the temple's entrance, leaving the bodies and the smoke and the flames behind. The prayer hall was smaller, more intimate, with a locked door that Kang opened with a key he produced from somewhere. Inside was a simple room with more statues, more incense, and in the floor, almost invisible unless you knew where to look, a wooden hatch. Kang pulled it open, revealing darkness and a ladder descending into stone. "This way," he said, already climbing down. Maya helped Kim to the ladder. He was weak from blood loss, barely able to hold on. She practically carried him down the first few rungs, then followed, pulling the hatch closed above them. The tunnel was narrow, carved from living rock, barely wide enough for one person. Water dripped from the ceiling. The air was cold and stale. Maya's lighter provided minimal illumination, just enough to see a few feet ahead. Behind them, she heard the crash of the temple being breached, heard the assassins shouting when they found their prey had escaped. They'd figure out the tunnel soon enough. Minutes at most. "Move," Maya said. "Fast as you can, don't stop for anything." If you enjoyed this story of Maya Johnson's incredible night fighting 50 assassins, Please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more intense action stories. Drop a comment below telling us what you thought of Maya's journey from disgraced soldier to the soul slayer. What would you do if you had to protect someone against impossible odds? Would you fight or flee? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to share this story with anyone who loves action, redemption arcs, and characters who refuse to give up no matter what. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next story.